So what do you do when refeeding isn't providing enough recovery that you need and progress is just very, very slow? You go ahead and you put yourself on a diet break. A diet break, it's very similar to the refeed, except this time you're out of a calorie deficit for a longer period of time to make sure that you're driving home that recovery. So I want to go ahead and I want to explain to you what a diet break really is and how to diet break. So if you go ahead and look here on the board, we're going to refer back to the car analogy because it just goes hand in hand with this type of situation. So the more you drive your car or the further the distance you go in your car, the more gas you're going to run through until you get to a point to where you're almost at E. Now, when you hit this point where you're almost at E, what do? You refill the tank so it can take you a further distance. So the same thing applies with the diet break. So as we diet down over time, what happens is cortisol increases, thyroid decreases, hormones, we can have some imbalances, or they can be bottomed out depending on how long you've been dieting for. And we can also become insulin resistant. So when we get to this point and we notice that progress is just very, very, very slow and we're not recovering as well, what do? We refill the tank. And by refilling the tank in this situation, we stop the calorie deficit. So a couple things we need to go over. Diet breaking. When to diet break. So you should diet break whenever you see your progress is starting to become very, very slow and refeeds are just not enough to drive home recovery or pick back up in regards to having a positive response to a calorie deficit. Now, some people, they'll plan these out where they're diet breaking every 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the person, the goal, the timeline. Other people, they'll just auto-regulate it and just look at their data like I just recently talked about. So how to diet break. So we already know from what I mentioned, when it's time to diet break, you stop the calorie deficit. So what you're going to do in this situation is pull yourself out of that calorie deficit and put yourself back into maintenance, because you want to be in maintenance because that's what is going to promote recovery. And also it's going to help you as you press forward within your fat loss journey. So another thing that you can do in regards to how to do this, if you're not necessarily sure on how to figure out your maintenance calories, is you can increase your current calories by 400 to 500 calories and keep them there, because that is going to be enough calories to pull you out of that calorie deficit and drive home that recovery so you can have a better response to fat loss once you come out of that once you come out of that diet break. So how long do you diet break for? So this is really case by case. So if you happen to be, let's say, a competitor, and you plan it out and you're on a timeline, you may have a week to diet break. You could also be diet breaking for 2 weeks. You can also diet break for a whole month. So it really just depends. If you're someone where you're like, I am just over this dieting, I don't want to be in a calorie deficit no more, then maybe consider being at maintenance or diet breaking for a full month until you get that mojo back to want to go back into that calorie deficit to continue on with your fat loss goals. So some benefits to doing a diet break. Number one, you're driving down cortisol. You're increasing thyroid. You're bringing hormones back up if they are bottomed out. And you're also driving down blood glucose if you are insulin resistant. Another thing is that once you are done with your diet break, you're going to have a better response to your fat loss, because guess what? These things are recovered. And because of that, you will have that better response. And the biggest thing here, the biggest takeaway here is that you're going to have better health overall because you're taking the time to recover yourself. You're going about your fat loss in a very healthy manner and just making sure you're implementing these tools to help you have longevity. So that's all that I have. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me any questions or comments down below, and please don't forget to subscribe.